All right, Cathie Wood is selling off a stock. She is selling off a stock that was once number 7 in her portfolio and is now number 22. Now, what is that stock, you may ask? Well, before I reveal what that stock is, which some of you may already know already, it is incredibly important to understand why this is so frustrating. Now, I'm not a Cathie hater. I'm not someone that is against Cathie Wood. In fact, I was a big Cathie Wood fan until she sold out of Palantir. It's rather I want to have a discussion on or ultimately why I think she's doing this, what the logic of this is, and what the rationale is behind this particular stock that she's selling off, but also why it's annoying that she's selling it off. She bought it very high in the $200-300 range. Now it's trading in the 90s. It's recently up at $110 range. And the stock is called Spotify. Cathie Wood has sold 1.1 million shares of Spotify. As we can go to right here from May 27th, you can see there was a 502,000 share sell of Spotify. That was on May 27th. We'll go down to May 26th. There was a 260,000 share sell of Spotify. And then we go down to May 25th. There was a 261,000 share of Spotify, and then 45,000 share of Spotify. And then I think there is one more. Do we have May 24th? Yeah, May 24th, we sold 480,000 shares of Spotify, and then another 82,000 shares of Spotify. Overall, about 1.1 million. If we go to the ARK holdings, we're going to look at what she's been selling off completely right here. So Zoom is number 1, and that's a discussion for another video. I do have some thoughts on that. I actually don't think that's the craziest thing in the world, but the valuation might be crazy, but the product is actually phenomenal. Zoom's about to do $4 billion in revenue for just the video chat app, which is pretty amazing. But Spotify, as you can see here, 1.3 million shares left, number 22. At once it was in the top, for a while, it was in the top 10 rotation of ARK as just like this position that they believed in. I tried to do a lot of research on trying to figure out why they believe in Spotify, what the logic is for Spotify, what the ultimate argument was. I think I found, and I couldn't find anything or else I was going to show it in this video, but I found, I remember hearing a clip a while ago of one other analyst in some CNBC interview talking about Spotify, and they were talking about it being like the audio interface for the world or something like that, right? Like there wasn't really a mention of how innovative it is. There was just a mention of it's Spotify. So I wanted to go through some of the numbers and at least actually talk about why I think Spotify is not the best in the world. As you can see, I have my notebook out here. It says Daydreamer, because I'm a daydreamer. Spotify has close to 0.5 billion users, which means almost 500 million users. They have operating losses still with about 500 million users. They're at about 422 million monthly active users. 182 million are premium subs. Ad-supported subs are about 252 million. And their net cash flow was good in Q1 2022, about 22 million, but most of it is ultimately going to stock-based compensation. Their year-over-year growth from last year to this year is 19%, Q1 2021 to Q1 2022. Their quarter-over-quarter growth is 4%. So they're growing their year-over-year at about, you could say, 19%. Their premium subs grew 15% year-over-year. Ad-supported monthly active users grew 21% year-over-year. Not horrible numbers, but their quarter-over-quarter growth was 4% on the MAUs, 1% on the premium subs, which means they had 180 million subs last quarter, 182 million premium subs this quarter, which means they grew 1% in terms of the premium paid subscribers. Now, they did leave Russia, so that probably factored into it. So not a horrible quarter, but not an amazing quarter in terms of growing subscribers. And then 7% on the ad-supported MAUs. Last quarter, they had 236, Q4 2021. Now they have 252 million ad-supported monthly active users. So if we look at these numbers, what does it tell us? It tells us, number one, Spotify is not growing at some exponential rate. It had about, I would say, 30 to 40 million premium subs when they DPO'd back in 2018. Now they're at 182 million. That's great, but the stock DPO'd at 165, and now the stock's at like 114, 110. It was trading almost in 95 a couple of days ago before we had a little bit of this rally, which I do not expect to continue to stay. So I think Cathie Wood is looking at this stock, and it's like, okay, they're not producing a crap ton of subscribers, which would give me an incentive to stay with the stock, right? Because the nature of this stock and how it's being valued by shareholders is, are they producing enough subscribers? Are they getting more and more people to just give them their money because they want to get into this service? They're not, and we'll talk about why they're not in a second. Number two, are they growing their advertising business in some unique type of moat? that digital audio hasn't had before. Now, the digital audio ad market is pretty big. It's about $50 billion globally, TAM, and that's just being conservative. It's closer to $100 billion if you really factor in all the other things that go into radio. Most of that money is spent on the radio. Well, if the radio is going to be dying out and people are not going to be listening to the radio that much, they're going to be listening to things like Spotify, then a lot of those ad dollars could theoretically go into platforms that have sort of the best data on audio content and the best targeting data for audio advertisers. So I think Cathie Wood is looking at this stock and saying, okay, audio is big, global audio TAM is big, but there's two issues. Premium subscribers are not growing at the level we think it could grow. And number two, they might not have a unique moat on terms of digital audio. And there's a lot of technical reasons why they might not have a unique moat for digital audio, but part of the reason is because they're approaching, it's kind of like it goes in full circle, they're approaching audio in a Netflix style of podcasting business, meaning they could have a unique moat when it comes to digital audio advertising, but they're not really going that route because they're spending $700 million of public shareholder capital to acquire Joe Rogan and Call Her Daddy and Gimlet Media and all these premium audio studio networks. And this, I believe, is one of the flaws of Spotify as a company. I've been very vocal about this. And I think Cathie Wood is finally starting to recognize it. Now, why is she recognizing it now versus a couple years ago? Well, that's just Cathie Wood. But if you buy Spotify, you are betting on the idea that they're going to be a publisher of amazing audio content for the next decade, not a platform. Let me say that again. You are betting that they're going to be a phenomenal publisher of audio content, not a platform. Why do I think it's not going to be a platform? Because no one gets discovered on Spotify. You upload your content, it sits in a graveyard and it goes nowhere. Trust me, I know about this because I've done a lot of market research in the audio space and people are not getting their content discovered. When's the last time a random podcast popped up in your feed, you clicked on it, you got to know about that creator and you sort of fell in love with their brand? I mean, how did you find me on YouTube? I popped up in your feed and then you consumed my content and you became a subscriber of me. That type of search-based discovery mechanism that exists on TikTok and Twitter and YouTube and Instagram does not exist on Spotify. It really does not exist on any audio platform. So I do not see them as a play when it comes to discovery. And if there were a play when it comes to discovery, I think they would have a little bit more of a moat. Outside of that, I don't think they have much of a moat. Now it's just a question of, okay, what does the platform offer to the end user for the subscription? Because if you can't nail discovery and nail this hub where people go to find and search for content, you can't really sell ads in a meaningful way. Like, advertising only works when there's a lot of people scrolling through a lot of content, i.e. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and they're able to consume the advertisement in a meaningful way. If that's not happening, and they've kind of publicly made the declaration, I know they say they want ads to be a big part of their business, but the way they've invested their capital to acquire, when you give one person $100 million, that one person is going to be on the homepage of your platform, i.e. Joe Rogan, which means you're either going to sell ads against Joe Rogan's podcast, which is like, okay, or you're going to use Joe Rogan to drive more premium subscribers, which is like, well, can you do that? And if you do that, the advertising discovery mechanism is not that phenomenal because average people aren't getting discovered, which is the whole beauty of YouTube and TikTok, that anyone can get discovered and YouTube can sell an ad against anyone getting discovered. That's how the discovery process works. If it's only going against Joe Rogan, then I think the advertising moat decreases significantly because it's just ads that you can sell against Joe Rogan. And then what if people are just not listening to Joe Rogan? Do you get to sell them ads at that point because you're not showing them any other type of content? And then B, if Joe Rogan is not driving the subscriber base up, then the 100 million went to the garbage. Like, what's the point of giving someone 100 million if they couldn't drive subs? So I think Cathie's looking at this question of if Spotify can actually be a meaningful audio player, and she's trying to think, okay, is there a world in which I see this platform meaningfully getting 300-400 million subscribers, which would be 2x the amount of subscribers they have right now? Mind you, they DPO'd at 165. Let's actually look at their chart real quick. They are significantly below their DPO price, but they DPO'd when they had less subscribers, which means they've grown significantly, but they've erased all those gains because of this market. And the question ultimately becomes, how do investors feel about if Spotify has the ability to continue to grow? This is the same Netflix story. Netflix grew a lot, but Netflix has erased almost 2 years worth or 3 years worth of gains simply because what's happened with their subscriber issue. DPO'd 165, April 30th, 2018. Stays flat, goes down to 104. I mean, really not a successful DPO. Then, April 2020, what do we have? We have crazy amounts of liquidity, crazy amounts of inflated prices. Spotify reaches $387 a share. Could you imagine in this market paying $387 a share for Spotify? And I know you could say that for a lot of stocks. Could you imagine paying $45 for Palantir? I get it. But like, that's a lot for Palantir. I think it has a little bit more of a moat than when we're talking about something like Palantir, right? And then obviously, or something like Spotify. And then it's come down. Lowest hit was 89 a couple of days ago. And now it's at Now it's at 111, right? So this was kind of where it's been over the past couple of days. 111. Okay, reasonable. So if I'm Cathie and I'm looking at it, she was buying it at 250, 300. She was buying it in that range. Now she's looking like, do they have a subscriber growth potential? Is there a trajectory of subscriber growth? And she hasn't liquidated the entire position yet. So I'm very curious if she just sold off 1 million shares to be able to then put into some of her other higher conviction plays like Twilio and Robinhood and Tesla, obviously, and Roku, which she's been buying a lot of, which she does believe there's a unique type of advertising mode there. Or is she getting ready to liquidate the position? Because it's one thing if you sell up 1 million shares so you have a couple $100 million to put into other stocks because the timing is right, or you genuinely just don't believe in the company anymore and you're selling out of the position. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of days. But if anything, if you don't believe they're going to grow subscribers, if you don't believe people have to pay that $10 a month to listen to Spotify, then I think the moat falls apart, especially because all of the podcasts they're acquiring, you don't need to pay the subscription to listen to it. Like, that's the craziest part. None of their podcasts are behind a paywall. They're not. They're all there, free for anyone to see. It just has to be on the Spotify app. So they're betting on this strategy that they'll buy exclusive premium audio content in the form of podcasts, and they'll drive you into the platform, into the app. It's like a customer acquisition strategy. And then on the app, they'll just bombard you with ads to sign up for premium. They'll give you 3 months free, blah, 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 and they'll keep you in that funnel. I'm like, okay, but then what am I subscribing for? Because I'm not subscribing for Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan's free for anyone. So if I'm not subscribing for Joe Rogan, what am I subscribing for? Well, the only thing you're subscribing for is either ad-free podcasts, which you can just skip over the ads. So it's like that, or music. And the question is, if you're organically getting people to subscribe for music, but you drove them via the podcast strategy, is there a disconnect there in terms of the intention someone had to sign up for the platform versus why they're upgrading for premium in the first place? Now, I understand Spotify can feel, there's a bunch of people in the world that don't understand that they can pay $10 a month and get access to the world of music, and it's this like beautiful experience because they collect all these libraries of songs and there's all these memories and playlists, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I think there's an argument there. The question is how many people really care about that. I use YouTube Music because I have YouTube Premium. I had Spotify for a couple years. Don't miss it. I mean, like, YouTube does the job, right? Like, music, boom. It's just music at the end of the day. I listen to it when I'm working out or when I'm like driving. So it's like, that's all I need it for. It's not that. That's why I never felt that music providers had that much of a moat, because the proprietary element only exists in the curation of music, not the music itself, because you don't own the music. Sony and UMG, they own the music. They have all the power. You could say, well, you have access to the people, but the people can go, like, Justin Bieber can take his songs to Apple and he will take 80 million listeners with him in a heartbeat. That's just how it is, right? The artist still has a lot of the leverage here, in my opinion. So I think Cathie's looking at this question like, are they going to be able to grow subscribers? Are the subscribers going to be profitable? Because a lot of Spotify, I had $5 Spotify for the past 3 years when I was in college. They were not making a profit off of my $5. A lot of parts internationally, they give a lot of Spotify away for free. There's so many trials, all this stuff. That's why subscription businesses are really hard to evaluate, because you got to figure out who's actually paying, and there's a Netflix sharing password problem, and how much revenue is coming down in the bottom line, how much profit is coming down. I think Cathie is concerned about this, and I think she's looking at this issue like, what's the value of this audio? Not even network, not even platform. To me, it's just a publisher of content now that maybe will get people to subscribe, maybe won't get people to subscribe, and maybe we'll be able to sell some ads. I'm not sure exactly what the value is to something like a Spotify. I don't even know how their data is that valuable outside of the recommendation engine that they have for music. So I think there is a question around Spotify. I've actually made a couple of videos about this a while back. It makes sense to me why Cathie Wood is selling out of it. Now, I don't like the strategy of buying high, saying you're going to hold for 4 years and then selling low. I guess she has other conviction stocks, whatever, but we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts on Spotify. Let me know your thoughts on why Cathie Wood is selling it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you agree with, disagree with. I'll see you in the next one.